Hey everyone, welcome back to Yellow Jacket Garage. Today we're coming to you from Precision Express Car Wash in Lindale, Texas, and we're going to be doing a little project today on a C7 Corvette. We're actually going to replace all 4 brake calipers, so we'll pull the calipers off, and the owner of the car, my buddy Ben, has gotten 4 fresh calipers that are powder coated that match basically the color theme of the car a lot closer, and so that's basically what we're going to do. I know a while back some folks had asked questions about maybe showing some brake work and whatnot. Now, what we're going to do, hopefully if we can get it in there and show you, should be something that translates to really any car, but by all means, most of the Corvettes that are the more current generations use the same technology, brakes and whatnot, so it'll work out pretty well, and hopefully we'll be able to show you how the calipers come apart and go back together and all the brake pads and everything else. So going to kind of kill a couple of birds with one stone. So stay tuned, hope you enjoy it, and thanks for being here with us today. All right, so these are the calipers that we're going to put on. Nice and good clean powder coat, stickers on the side of it. Do a little bit of a close-up of that. And so really pretty simple. Now with the Corvettes, with the C7, there's only 3 different variants of the brakes that you can get. But make sure if you're going to do this that you get the brakes that go with your specific car. Pretty simple to do. You can look at your build sheet and find out what brakes you have on it. So just verify that before you do it. Now with other models, other years, there's some other differences too. Just make sure that you do your homework before you order the brakes to make sure you get what you're supposed to have instead of something that doesn't work for you. So. All right, let's go ahead and get started on this. Okay, we're going to go ahead and pull the wheel off. Now we've already gone ahead and loosened them up a little bit, so all we have to do is just pull the lug nuts off of it and away it comes. All right, so now we got this all tore off, so we know what we're at. Now we had painted these before in the paint kit that we used. We had some of it that chipped off, so wasn't the absolute best, but you can't really see it a whole lot, but enough is enough, and you know it's there, and so it just kind of annoys you a little bit. So I'm going to swap those out. That's a little bit different. That red is a lot brighter, so we're going to install these the same way that the factory has them installed. So they have these crush washers that come with it, these brass washers. Make sure you put those on, and make sure you use new ones when you put them back together, because they're in there for a reason. All right, so here we are. We moved around a little bit. We're on the front caliper now, the front driver side. And so first thing you want to do is knock this banjo connector loose, and it is a 11 millimeter that holds that on. Just knock it loose, and then the caliper bolts, the mounting bolts, are 21s on the front. They're not as big on the back, and these things are torqued to a whole bunch, like 189 foot-pounds, something like that. So it may be a little bit of a bear getting it off of there, but that's where half drive and a big breaker bar comes in handy. So, all right, I got them all knocked loose. I'm going to grab a couple other items, and then we're going to pull this caliper off. All right, get that banjo clamp fitting out of the way, and so now we're going to knock these bolts out a little bit further. They're not quite finger tight, so you're going to have to use your ratchet to get them out of there. So I apologize for all the ratcheting sounds, but that's what ratchets do. Okay, there's the bottom bolt out. Top bolt out. All right, caliper is off. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to use this pin, this punch, put it right on that pin, and drive that pin out. Drive that pin out, and these pins will come all the way out. They have a little bit of a, I'll show you in a second when I get this one out. get right up there close to it. There's a little bit of a ring around it, and that locks into the caliper to hold the pin in place and hopefully to keep it quiet. So we've got those there. Take that pad out. Don't get your fingers all over the pad. We're reusing these pads because they're new, and so I want to move that around. Put the new caliper kind of in place. Put that pad in. Put that pad in. And being that these are powder coated and everything, there may be just a little bit of paint and stuff in different places that make it not quite slide as easy as it could. So then pin goes back in. Now make sure when you put the pin back in, there's the ears on the top of the pad. That pin goes in somewhere, somehow. Well, that one doesn't want to go back in there, but that's okay. That one's in. We're going to give it a little bit of a love tap. There we go. And then the retaining clip. Let's get this all lined up. Get that pad down in there a little bit further. Get that retaining clip in there. Yeah, that'll work. Get that one to slide in there, then we're going to put the second retaining clip through. It's going to be real easy with this going back together because you don't want to screw up your brand new powder coating. And so make sure we get it all kind of lined up. Be real careful doing this. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of persuasion. And they're in. We're just going to take the same punch, real careful so you don't bounce it off that pin. Okay, that one's seated. That one is seated. Make sure that the pads are pulled all the way out so they're nice and tight so it'll go back on. There is a rubber cap, dust cap. We're going to leave that alone until we get this set back on there. So, okay, so I did a little bit of research. The rear caliper with a P, the rear caliper, the mounting bolts are 89 foot-pounds. And the banjo bolt, because this is the OEM bolt that goes in there, is 30 foot-pounds to torque those down. So I'm going to be careful with those. The front caliper mounting bolts is 162 foot-pounds. So I think it's going to be kind of exciting getting those off, but I do have a Mongo breaker bar to help us out with that task. But 89 for the back, 162 for the front, and 30 for the banjo bolt. So be careful. From what I've read, that banjo bolt, if you over torque that bad boy, you're probably going to break it off. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and torque these down, get this thing buttoned up, and then we'll move on to another corner. Alright, so what we're going to do now, we're going to slide the caliper back over, and then the bolts go through from the outside, so it'll go into the ears on the caliper that holds it together. Once we do that, we'll put the new crush washers on the brake line, and then we'll tighten the brake line back down to secure it in place. Now is when we want to be real careful to not damage anything. And we want to make sure that the caliper, that the pads will go back over the rotor, just like so. Okay, put this bolt back in here. Bolt goes right back in there. That may be a little bit tight. There may be a little bit of residue or whatever in there, and so go easy with it when you're putting it back together. And again, I didn't reef on it yet. I haven't tightened it down, I haven't torqued it down or anything yet, and we will do that though. It does have a specific torque value that it needs to be set at. But we're putting on this new crush washer, and so we're going to put it on, put it through, and then put the second crush washer on the back side. And now is when we want to pull that cap out. I should have already pulled that cap, but I did not. So anyway, the cap is out. I've got the threads started. I'm just using the socket, finger tight, putting it on there for right now, because I don't need to be slinging that big old ratchet around in here quite yet. All right. Okay, so basically from there, that's it. It is that simple to pull a caliper off, swap everything over, put it back in, and so changing out your brake pads is really pretty close to being that easy too. So hopefully you can see it. I'm going to get more footage of deeper into it too, so if we miss stuff, I may be jumping around and jumbled up a little bit. But the important thing is we'll get the footage, and so that hopefully you can see how easy it is to do this. Now, when I pull the pins, you can change your brake pads out without pulling the caliper off the hub by just driving those pins out. They'll drive out from the front side to the back side. Let's see. This pin here, it would go in here, drive that pin out. Just make sure you orient everything the way it should be, and when you put it back together, keep an idea of how you pulled it apart to make sure that it goes back together the same way you took it apart, in a reverse order. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and get the torque wrench out, torque those down, and then move on to another corner. Okay, there we go. We got it all back together. It is torqued down. The torque spec for the front caliper on these is 162 pounds, I think. 162? Yeah, 162 foot-pounds. So we did that in 3 steps. I think I did a 90 and like 120, or 80, 120, and then 162. And so basically you step them up as you go, so you can bring the whatever you're torquing down in at an even level. So that part's done. This caliper is done. Give it a quick wipe down. The banjo clamp or banjo fitting is tightened back down. That one is torqued down to 30 foot-pounds, and so we did replace both of the crush washers in there, so that should be good to go. Hopefully that part's back together and it works out the way it is. Really what we got left to do is a couple other things to button it up. We had an issue with the other caliper. Some of it, it didn't get rebuilt the way it should have, I guess. And so we had a little bit of a leak, so that caliper is going to have to get pulled back apart on the passenger side. But anyway, for that, we are done. Hey, thanks for being here with us. Thanks for watching Yellow Jacket Garage. And as always, if you like what you've seen so far, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Like the video, and then if you like what you saw, put a comment down below. Tell me what you think. So, thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. And as always, we'll see you on down the road.